Gosh, I feel the power. It said that you can't start the webinar until I say so. So I said so.
There she
Hi.
is. Hello. So nice to see your face. A real
Yes.
face, a real person.
Same face. Same face,
Yeah,
just alive this time.
exactly. Yes. Really nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to this. I thought, Joanne, it might be nice if, because I have the other two panelists that I've done a pre-recording with,
Mhm.
I thought I would sandwich you in between,
That's fine.
um, if that's okay. So I'll
Yep.
I'll show Natalie's video first,
Okay.
and then I'll do the questions with
Okay.
you, and then
Yeah.
we'll finish with Chris's.
Okay.
Um,
And
unless
do
I
I?
suddenly,
Sorry, go on.
sorry, unless I suddenly feel that it's going in another direction, and then I might finish with you so that the participants can ask you questions since you're the only live panelist.
Okay.
Those are
Okay.
those are my two thoughts on it.
And I was just going to ask actually, if someone wants to see how something works or how I use Cadenza, do I have the facility to share my screen? Yeah.
I
So
just
that's
allowed that. Yeah,
okay. So just in case if they do so.
that's great.
Because one of the things I like to do is, people always say, oh, I couldn't get onto it. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know my
Yeah,
login, or I didn't know what to do when I got there. And it's all an excuse, isn't it? So when you take it through it with them in the lesson, there's no excuse. So I can show how to do that.
that's bang on.
Mm.
I have made a new little video that's just a short peek inside, and I've posted it on the main page under About.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever want to use that as a quick demo or a place to send people
Okay,
now,
it's good
yeah.
to know.
Oh, yeah, Rena's having a hard time coming in. Okay, I think we should probably go ahead and allow um, the attendees in, even though Rena's not quite here yet. So is that okay, Mari? Can we?
Yeah, you've actually already started the webinar, so there are a few people here.
Oh, I didn't see them come in. I'm sorry. I didn't see that it said start.
When you started recording, I believe.
Oh, I didn't click record.
Do you want it to be recorded?
Now
you can stop.
Now yeah, I do want it to be recorded, and obviously editing this part out.
Not a problem.
Okay. There they are in the attendees tab. Hello, everyone. Lots of people coming in. So great. I know some people were having a problem with internet and are coming in, one of our panelists. So we're just going to take a few moments and wait for Rena to get here. I can see I have Anna. If people want to say hi in the chat, go right ahead. I have Anna, Anton, Clara's here, yay. Clara is actually going to be one of our panelists, so I'm going to promote her as panelist. And I see Kim again. Thanks for joining us, Kim. And Monica's there. And Sophia Chan is back. Yay, thank you. And there's Veronica too. Great. This is wonderful. Claire, I'm going to make sure that you can share your screen and share your video. Great. We have snow in this part of the world this morning, which is a bit of a surprise. Claire, are you able to get your video and audio working? There she is.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. Great, great. Okay. So maybe we'll go ahead and get started, even though Rena isn't able to get in. I know she was texting me here at the same time, but I'll do a little bit of a countdown here so that we know where the recording will be clipped to.
Are the participants?
And does anyone have any questions?
Sorry, are the other attendees already in the meeting?
They are. Yeah. So you can see that in the participants list. If you go to attendees,
Okay, yeah, got it.
see the attendees. Yeah. Great. And I'm sure we'll have more filter in as we go. That's what happened last time. Okay. So is everyone good if I do a countdown and then we'll do the official start? All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to be hosting our second webinar on Cadenza and how it's used. And I'm really excited that I've reached out to other people who are actively using Cadenza with different age groups and different levels so that we can hear how they're using it, incorporating it into their studios, and fostering self-regulation, which is what the tool is built on. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'd like to introduce our panelists for today and just have them just say a quick little bit about themselves and why they've been asked here today. So first we'll start with Claire.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Claire Miller. I'm the research assistant for the Cadenza Music Tool project. And I am a music teacher, a pianist, a mother, and I also work in the Dan School of Drama and Music at Queen's University as an administrator. And I have had the pleasure to start working with Cadenza just a few weeks ago, really, with the inception of my research assistancy. And I have about 10 students that I'm working with from varying levels and ages. Youngest is 12 and the oldest is a retiree. So I'm getting a really great spectrum of styles and applicability, and I'm loving using the tool. It's absolutely part of my routine and my studio now. And I don't know what I did without it before, quite honestly.
Well, that's great to hear. That's wonderful. Next, we'll hear from Joanne. Welcome, Joanne.
Hi everyone, I'm a piano teacher here in the UK. I've been teaching about 5.5 years now. I went online at the start of our lockdown in the UK in mid-March, so a year ago. And I had the worst part of the online lesson was the practice notes. I was fine on video. I had experience with video and such like, but the practice notes, if I took practice notes, I'd take a photo of the page, I'd send them on WhatsApp or by email. And then if the parent took practice notes, they'd send it by WhatsApp or by email. Or when the parent took the practice notes, and I dictate, write down all of this, quite specific instructions. And they'd send me the photo of what they wrote down. There'd be 3 words. So of course the student and the degree of stress of, or you ask the kid to do it and they take up a whole page to write 4 words and it takes half the lesson. And there's just the stress of finding those emails, finding those WhatsApps from different parents at different stages. I've got 30 students and I use WhatsApp for personal stuff as well. So they were right down the list of all my WhatsApp messages and I just couldn't be doing with this stress. So I knew about Cadenza because I'm a member of the Curious Piano Teachers. And I'd seen videos by Jodie, and Jodie had come along again through March or April, I think it was, and talked about Cadenza again. I thought, this is what I need in my life. So I started using it, never looked back, and I've been using it every lesson since. And it's fantastic. Honestly, just the stress it removed from my life was amazing. So that's why I'm here, is to say how wonderful it is.
That's great. Thanks, Joanne. I'm sure many people out there can relate to that exact scenario. So thank you for adding some humor to the discussion. And we have our Rita here with us, Dr. Rina Eubitis, and I think she can access everything. Yes, she can. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry I'm late to the party. I live in a really remote area where internet rules my life, but I kind of like Joanne's description that I just heard. So yeah, we're all grateful to have something like Cadenza to take some of the chaos away. And I've been involved with the project since the outset. I think it's a fabulous tool. I'm thrilled that Jodie and Claire have put together a panel today with several people pre-recorded and Joanne with us live, so that people can have a sense of how it's being used in the real world with COVID and vaccines and variants and online teaching and learning and face-to-face and everything in between. So thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Claire and Jodie as well. And I will just sit back and enjoy.
Thank you, Rena. That's great. I'm going to start today by playing one of the pre-recorded interviews, which is with Nathalie Degrasse, who has been with the project far before Cadenza's inception, and she's watched its evolution. She works at CEGEP in Sherbrooke, teaches from there, and is also a professor at the University of Sherbrooke. And so I would like to share her interview. It's wonderful. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. And I'm wondering, could everyone hear the audio? No, that's always an issue here. Let me try this. If you could just give me a thumbs up if you do hear the audio. Sorry, this is my first time trying to run this through in this way. So give me a thumbs up if you hear the audio.
Jody, I'm wondering if your headphones being plugged in might be an issue. Is the audio coming through to your headphones? We don't see your screen. Oh, there we go. Okay, all good.
While and I have worked on this project, how you use it and the benefits that you have found that it gives you in your teaching. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a clarinet player. I'm from Sherbrooke, Quebec. I've been teaching in a college setting for some number of years. Clarinet, as well as been teaching other subjects such as ear training. I'm now a PhD candidate at Université Laval. I'm really interested in this self-regulation idea, and it all originated from the project we were in together, the iScore and the music tool suite, from which Cadenza is a great asset. So I'm here today to talk to you about my use of Cadenza, and I've been using it in a group setting, in ear training at the college level since 3 years.
Yes, that's right.
And
yeah.
as well as with my university students on a one-on-one basis.
Okay, great. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to speak to you today, because I know you're so versatile with the tool, and we do get questions from outside users wondering what age to use Cadenza with and if it can be used in post-secondary, and we often refer to your use as the example of course it can be used. Self-regulation can be used at all age levels. So I think you've already answered how long you've been using Cadenza. How did you originally find out about Cadenza?
Through the project we were in together. At first I thought it was more an app which we required the use of an Apple device, and when I realized that it was available to any users, then it came all back together, and I said, this is the continuation of the iTool score, so the iScore tool. So this is it really is a continuation for my pedagogy. So It,
I believe I remember that exact day that you
will-
that
it
you
will be
realized
your,
this will work.
your private lesson.
Yeah, that's great.
I get back on track. Yeah.
And so the age groups that you're using it with, I know you've explained a little bit, but could you go into a little bit more depth about exactly what age group you're using it with?
It's a public college, so after high school, they have 2 years of musical training. It's a diplôme d'études collégiales. So they are 17 to 19, and then they go on to university, either in music or in other subjects. So they have an array of courses they are required to take. They have their instruments, of course. They have history courses and ear training classes, and it's in the ear training classes, especially at the end of the program. They have 4 ear training courses, so it's at the end of the program that I use Cadenza with them, with the feature group lessons. I ask them 2 or 3 vocal, what I call activities, in which they either sing arpeggiated chords on the same bass, or either sight read, and I ask them to record their performance, or even do duets. So they give me 3 artifacts or 3 recordings, and they share it with me. Prior to that, they self-assess their performance, finding out what went well and not so well, and then I comment using the media annotator. So I use
And
it systematically every semester, and I don't ask more than 3 recordings. I give them points for that, little points, but it's just, an exercise to self appraisal, then maybe critique just a little bit, so they get to know the tool and then use it adequately and hopefully on their own, so they do the transfer in their um, instrument.
yeah, exactly. That's great.
Self-regulated, yes.
That's great.
So
And
that's my use of technology. Yes.
you shared a video with me as well of your students using it, which was just great. That's fabulous. If we have their permission, perhaps I'll tag it onto this video so others can see how they use that. So you and I can talk about that later. That's great. So I think you've explained what feature you find the most useful. I believe that's the media annotator. And can you tell me, how do the students receive that? How do the students, when they first look at Cadenza and they first start using it, what's their feedback about it?
They don't. They don't. You'll probably find that bizarre, but they don't say much about it. As if I compare it to iScore, there was another accompaniment, technological accompaniment. You had to foster this appropriation. With Cadenza, I mean, it's an app. They just log into it. I give them their assignments, and they just do it.
Oh, that's
So
great.
it's
It's
it
very
goes without saying. It goes
right.
without saying, the appropriation of the tool. Um, of course, it's an effort for them to annotate the video. If I
Right.
ask them too much to do it, they'll find it, they'll be uneasy about it. But they see the value, and they see the improvement.
That's key.
So
That's
it's a
key.
key.
Hmm.
It's a
That's
key.
great. That's wonderful.
If they go
Sorry, that
back
was
on their initial first recording, their second and their last, and they connect the dots and they see the improvement, and that says it all for them.
that does say it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
So
I notice that with my students as well, and I compare it to
yeah,
seeing yourself grow in the mirror. You don't look in the mirror and see yourself growing. So it's nice to have your lines on the wall that your parents put so that you can see how you're growing. And Cadenza is kind of like those lines on the wall. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. How would you say that it's changed your pedagogy prior to
It's
using and
changed
now?
tremendously in the way that I don't rely on the perfect product as much. And it's very clear for my students that it's the process um, that is valued. So it changed everything for me.
That's so great to hear.
Yes.
Would you
And
like
I was surprised sometime at one point. I had forgotten to say it in one of my groups, and I realized that that kid, like he was a vocal singer, and he was jazz, and he was like having everything to be perfect, right? And he said, I must have spent 100 hours or so, 15 hours, I don't remember. It's an astronomical number of hours to make it perfect. And I just had to say, this is just a process oriented assignment. I mean, just a
Yeah,
picture of one moment, and then in 4 weeks you'll have another picture of another moment. And I had not made that clear enough for that group, I imagine. So it's a whole new perspective on musical performance. I mean, they learn that if it's not perfect, you don't hand in anything. And of course, it's true at the end when the public is there and when the exam is there and when you need to be a competent musician. Of course it's the product, but along the way there's other important things.
oh, I
It's
just love that, Natalie. That's,
pedagogy. I
yeah.
mean, it's the pedagogy, and we're really way too much oriented on on the end product. And music education is not only about the product, it's about the process, and it's about much more at the end,
Yeah,
along the life line, right?
absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Life
So
lessons as well.
this is the orientation that really um, uh, colored my pedagogy for the last 10 years.
Yes.
Pretty
Yeah.
much
Quite a
so.
bit, 10 years. Yeah. That's great.
Pretty much so.
I just love that. And I love your passion for teaching and your passion for, you know, seeing your students find the joy in the journey. I think that's fantastic. I'm just going to pause the recording for one moment and then we'll come right back in. Okay, so we're back recording here. We brought up a screen share so that you can see how Natalie uses the group lessons. So this is the group lesson area. It can be found if you click on this teacher icon right here at list of group lessons, and then it will bring up any previous group lessons that you've made, or you can create a new group lesson over here. If I use the drop-down list, I can see which students I have shared a particular lesson with. And if I wanted to assign it to more students, I can click right here and add any students in that I might want to add. And so if we go over to the students' group lessons, we can see two different ways of using the group lessons for ear training. So personally, I've used it to upload media annotations of ear training questions. So I have 3 videos here that I've shared with 3 of my students who are all working on their level 4 piano. And so they go through and there's an interval video, there's a clapback playback video, and a chord naming video. And they can go in and use the media annotator to answer those questions. Natalie uses the group lesson to create a task. And I'm just going to go to edit task here. And Natalie, would you like to just describe how we made this assignment?
Yes, I just name the assignment in the first box, vocalise deux. Usually I ask them to sing chords on the same bass with inversions. So it can be major, major 6 and major 6/4, second inversion, minor, minor 6/4, augmented and diminished chords. So I name exactly what I am expecting on the same bass on 4 different notes, let's say. So after writing that, I used the next feature, which is the checklist, making sure that prior to recording their performance, they use a metronome, they use une battue, a clear
Conducting.
conducting pattern beat, that they upload it to the media annotator, that they don't forget, and they annotate their own performance and then share it with me. So after that, I just save, and then off it goes on to the students.
Yeah, that's great. And it's so nice to be able to share one lesson with as many students as you like. And that way, rather than filling it in 11 times or 15 times, you can just broadcast it to all 11 or 15 of those students. Yeah, it's a big time saver for sure.
Yeah. Since I have only 2 or 3 tasks, it really makes it easy for them to place them there, but as well, when I want to observe their progress over time, I know where to get the artifacts, and it really organizes well all my videos and my notes. So
I'm sure that helps you with assessment in the end.
it does.
That's great. So my final question for you today, Natalie, is there anything that the Cadenza team can do to support you in your continuing use of Cadenza?
It would be nice to find out how other teachers use the tool, the good practice tricks, and because one challenging way that remains in using the tool is, how do we get the student to do it by himself,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I would like that. I would like other teachers to share, and you're obviously contributing in an immense way by recording a few other teachers. But
Yeah.
that is,
Yeah, I think this really
the
helps.
community of practice is very interesting and intriguing, and so.
Well, now that you've shared your use of Cadenza and all of your tips and tricks, that will come back to you manyfold, I'm sure. And be sure to check out, we had a lovely chat all together, and we made a PDF of tips and tricks for student engagement. So sort of drawing the student in, little tips and tricks that you can do, for engagement. So I'll share that with you later. Actually, it's in the Facebook group.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was so great to see you, Natalie, and thank you for sharing. And again, your passion for pedagogy and nurturing your students is so evident, and I really appreciate speaking with you today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Natalie. She's just a lovely person and a wonderful pedagogue. And so now I'd like to introduce Joanne. Joanne's going to come on and be our live participant, and she's joining us from the UK. So welcome, Joanne.
Hi there. Hi.
So great to see you. I know you had a chance to tell us a little bit about yourself at the beginning, but maybe just give us a little bit of background about you as a teacher.
Me as a teacher, so I think I said I've been teaching just under 6 years. I teach from my home studio. I've taught a little bit in schools, but I prefer teaching from home, if I'm honest, so I stick with home where I can. I've only got one student left in school now, so hoping to transition him to my home studio when I have space. Like other teachers, it's mostly kids that I have, because obviously that's the biggest part of the market, but I teach adults as well. And I use Cadenza for all age groups, from age 4, well, I don't have any 4-year-olds online, but age 5, I have a 5-year-old, up to 65, however old my oldest student is, and I get all of my students using Cadenza to a greater or lesser degree. I only have up to intermediate students. I don't have advanced students. So, we are talking like the beginner, first 5 years or so of study here, beginner to intermediate. That's mainly who I teach. Would you like to know anything else?
That's great. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Wonderful. I share your preference for being at home rather than in the school setting, because I've done both as well. That's great. So, which features of Cadenza are you finding are the most useful in your studio?
I use it, my absolute main focus, I think, as I said in my first introduction, my main focus is the sharing and communicating of notes. So I want the student to do X, Y, Z, and then if they've got a response or a question, they use it to share back with me. That is the main thing. And through that communication of notes, it might be watch this video so I can include a link. It might be you record a video of me, you record a video of you and send it back to me. Fingers crossed on Media Annotator, not always. Sometimes there's an attachment, but either or. Or I've got a lot of backing tracks and I would upload the backing tracks for them, and then they don't have to go and find the backing tracks anywhere else. If they're using Cadenza, it's on there, so I can share that media file. If I want them to watch a video that I've recorded for them, I would just record that little video and then I can attach that to Media Annotator. Again, it's right there in front of them. And in many ways, that's actually easier than when you've got face-to-face lessons, because you can just, you're online, you just click and attach it there, and they've got those notes, because you can't attach a video to a notebook, but you can attach it to Cadenza. So that's quite a big benefit. And, I don't have to rely on parents to go and find a link somewhere. I can just put the link into Cadenza. It's all about that two-way communication, mainly. That's where we start. But over time, I start getting them to use it for self-reflection as well. And then I love to see, if students been following the tasks for a week, they start off with a little emoji face that's like this, and then it goes like this. And I love to see this kind of going up the time list to say, oh, look how you've improved. And then you can really hit home the benefit of practice. And you see what your practice has achieved, and it's their own reflection. They can see it. It's a great visual representation. So yeah, I use those basically, the tasks, the checklists, the teacher attachment, the media annotator. I use those a lot. I tend not to do group lessons. I've used it once or twice, but I tend not to use group lessons, but I'm aware of how it works, but I don't do group lessons really. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. It's very handy for a past record. So sometimes you think, oh, did I set you that scale? When did I set, and you've forgotten because you've moved on so far, and you can just have a quick look back through all those tasks for the last 3-4 months. And there you just see where it comes up in the task list. And it's very handy for that. Way better than, going back through an old notebook and trying to decipher your own handwriting 6 months down the line. So it is good to have that record. Oh yeah, the other one I use, I like the notes section, because sometimes you're doing some flashcards, or you want to make a note of how quickly they did something or the tempo they got to, or you spotted a weakness in something and you think, we need to do a little bit of work on that over the next few weeks. I'll just quickly type that into notes. And then when I'm lesson planning next time, again, I don't have to go through the last week or 2 weeks of my notebook to find where I wrote that down for that particular student on that particular day. it's there on their record, and I can put all of those planning things and considerations, and then I can incorporate them in the next week's lesson plan. So I find it very, very useful for just making notes about students after the lesson, because they can't see that section. So, not that you put anything horrible, but you don't want to say spotted a weakness in the rhythm, so need to do so. You don't want them to see that. You just want to say, hey, let's do some work on tree time. It's that I find very useful as well. It saves all that scribbling and note taking and losing things. So
that's great. Yes, it's definitely a time saver for lesson planning. That's a great lesson planning tip, to put it in the notes for the next week. That's great. Do you have anything that you would like to share? If you'd like to share your screen or demonstrate how you would use Cadenza in a lesson, or?
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone's got any specific things about any specific questions. I'm happy to respond to anyone's questions and give some demonstrations. I mean, one of the things I do a lot, I think I was just saying to Jodie at the start, you say, oh, let's use, I'm going to put all the notes on Cadenza. I want you to look at Cadenza. Here's your login, blah, blah, blah. You go through all of that. And then the next week you get, oh, I couldn't find the website. I had one student spelling it with a K, Cadenza. And so it doesn't exist, can't find it. Then they come back full of excuses. Oh, I couldn't remember what the password was. No. And they couldn't get beyond the connecting to you as a teacher and the time zone, and they didn't get it. And so I thought I'd just show you what I do, if that would be helpful to overcome those initial objections. So in the first lesson, this is what I do. If I can share my screen, so I've got open here. This is my list of students. I would create a new student. Let me just, so I create a new student. I won't create a new one now, but let me find me. So I've actually created myself as a student. So I would either do this for them, or I can demonstrate under my own. So if I've set them up, say I've got, Jane Smith, I'd set them up, and then I'd log into Jane Smith, because we all know the email address that they've given us, and we all know the password is abc@123. And I would actually go into their student profile, and I would set up the time zone and connect to me as a teacher. So after I've done that, I then show them what it looks like on their screen. So of course, when you're logged in as a teacher, you can't then just open another tab and log in as a student. This is my dummy account. This is my ghost account. This is me as a student with me as a teacher. So what I do is I open a new in private window. I use Control-Shift-N. Then you get a private tab. Then it doesn't have any history. There's no cookies, nothing. Can you see this new black screen? Yes. Okay. So then I go into Cadenza Practice App. And I log in, but instead of logging in with my piano address, I log in with my personal address. You do need 2 email addresses for this. I put in my password, and this is what the student sees. So if they haven't,
Joanne, we can't see your other screen. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I saw some nods. Sorry. Let me. I'll just share that one as well. Yeah. So I log in. There you go. So this is now the private, a new in private window. So I can log in as me as a student, and I can do this under their name, or I can use my dummy student account here. So they see this, and I can say, that you're in the student account because look, yours is a different color, and you can be very specific. Yours is blue, mine is more of a turquoisey greeny color. Okay, so this is your name. This is your name here. This is me as your teacher. Okay, all you have to do is click into your latest lesson. And if this is where I would set up the time zone and their connection to me. I'd also encourage them to go into here, my account, and set up a new password. I said, otherwise I will always be able to access your account using the password abc@123. So I do encourage them to do that just for security. So they can see here, right, let's go into this task. So what I would do is I would then switch back to my teacher Cadenza. I'd type a task into the teacher's Cadenza, and I'd show them how it would pop up on here. So, and I might have to hit the refresh button, but it would come up. So let's say I've done that. Let's go into the Allegro. Okay, so here's your task list. Point out that they can read what's here, because a lot of them don't. This is the big text box, and I say, well, I did put that in Cadenza. Oh, I didn't see it, and I show it. There it is. Yeah. So they just jump straight to the checklist. So just be aware, they often just jump straight to the checklist. So don't put too much blurb in there if you want it to be read. So here's the checklist. So you saw that in Natalie's video, how you add those checklists in. So then really what I want them to do is read this and act on it. And that's the first challenge. Log in, read it. Okay. I assure them that I am not looking at the hours that they're practicing. I am not looking at, I know how much they've practiced. I know how effective their practice is when I listen to them at the next lesson. So I don't need them to log it. So I don't say, I'm not looking at, I'm not looking over your shoulder, they don't need to know I'm looking over their shoulder. I can see. And, if they come back with all the same problems that they had the week before and say, oh, I didn't know, then you know that it's because they didn't read that. If they read that, they will do something about it. And that is the key thing. Whatever happens after that, if they read it, is the key thing. And I say, look at what we can do here. And I make sure I don't overwhelm them. I hit start practice. And we can see this list, work on that. When you've done it, tick. Okay, I've got to do 3 correct repeats, or this one I've got to do for 2 minutes. Okay, so they can see the different options. And we always do that in the lesson. I tell them, I'm setting you 3 correct repeats or 3 repeats or 2 minutes or just a tick box to say it's done. Okay, and this starts timing, and you don't have to time it, but I'm not looking at how much you spent on it, but it's useful for you to know, but don't worry too much about that. The next thing I ask them to do, depending on how overwhelmed they are by technology, this might be over the course of a couple of lessons, I would eventually ask them to start scoring themselves here. How did you do? Was it, or was it, or was it, or was it? Yeah, how did you do? This is where they can put in their reflection and they can decide how they did. Okay. And then on age, by age, I'm not really expecting 6-year-olds to have a great deal of introspection and cognitive ability to say, I didn't use a very good technique here. But as they get older, I'd hope that some adult students do actually start to use that. Teens, if you can get any teens to actually type anything and communicate with you at all, you're doing well. But if anyone writes anything in here, I'm happy, because if they do, I can respond. And then they get a little notice. So I say, if you write something in there, click notify teacher and I'll get to see it. Okay, I do have one teen. She will write her next steps in here, and that's great. But she's been using it now for a year, so she will do it. And she's a thoughtful type who would do that. So when you finish your practice, and you get a filled in blue dot here. And when you've done 3 practices, because I say this to do 3 times, when you've done 3 practices, you get a little gold star. And kids do like to see this row of gold stars on their practice tasks. So that's really what I would show them. And then I would, if I stop share and reshare again, reshare my original screen, if I can find it, which I can't. There it is. If I now go into Joanne Snowden, I can see that Joanne Snowden has practiced her Allegro. And I've got a little red dot, and I say, you'll get this red dot. When I've written a note back to you, you'll get a red dot there, and you can go in there and you can see a message from me, and you can go in and read that. So that's really where I start for the first couple of weeks. That's how I start, and I get them in the lesson to look at this. I don't take up my own time afterwards recording videos, although Jodie's now said she's done a video for this, but I do it in the lesson, so there is no excuse. And then they can ask questions, and if they have any questions, they can ask them then, but they can't come back to me and say, oh, I didn't know afterwards, because you know what they're like. So
brilliant. That's great. Thank you for that demo, Joanne. I'm sure people picked up a lot of tips through there, and I'm glad we're recording so that people can go back over and check out some of the things that you did. That's great. I'm wondering if Cadenza has, really specifically influenced your pedagogy. Have you changed yourself as a teacher since you've started including it in your studio?
It's really very hard to say, isn't it? Because I started using Cadenza when we started teaching online. So everything changed back then. Everything changed. I will say 2 or 3 things. I've become much better at writing focused notes. It's really made me think. You've got a checklist, use it, be very specific, write down one activity, what the objective, the objective, blah, blah. It's made me very specific, much more so than writing reams of messy handwriting in there. So I think much more then about what are the exact steps that the student needs to follow at home, which for younger kids, they don't know how to practice. You know, we're talking inexperienced students, so they don't know how to practice, they need to learn how to practice. So it really just helps them to have this, and they really need it. I think it's brought the parents into perhaps much more engagement. So those that didn't attend lessons before, on video, they should be there and attending lessons, but they really need to set up the technology for their kids. So even if it's a 10-year-old kid who knows how to use the iPad better than his mum, the mum still needs to make sure that in terms of the organisation of their child, the child has a device in the lesson, or a device during the practice, and a second device during the lesson. So one device for the Zoom lesson, and a second device for playing backing tracks, for uploading theory, pictures of theory workbooks, a metronome. And that's the parents' job really, to make sure that the student is properly equipped. So actually, it's got them involved as well. And I'd say there's a lot more parental involvement now, which really, really has a huge positive impact on the student's progression.
That's great. Yeah. I'm wondering if you have any students that don't use Cadenza, and if you notice a difference between your pool that uses it and the pool that don't.
There's a huge difference in the pool that uses it versus the pool that don't. So, I mean, what I do is I use this for note taking. No matter what anyone wants, I make practice notes on here so that I know come next lesson, it's all there and I know what I've set them, and there's no argument about what I said and what I didn't say. There's no finding the page, because, week on week of practice notes in a notebook for 30 students. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've found it really hard to keep track of where all those notes were and what week, and are they in the right section, and yeah. So it's there and I can see it. So whether they look or not, I still use it. And for me personally, it's a huge benefit. Those that don't look at the notes, at a very minimum, they come back week after week with the same issues. It's so very noticeable, but that's the same in a practice notebook, I suppose, isn't it? But you know that you can be really clear in Cadenza, much more clear than you can be in your practice notebook. So, and this goes for all age groups, but particularly perhaps, let's say in the older age group, I've got an older semi-retired gentleman. He's one of my intermediate pupils. We go into a lot of detail about, the sound, listening to the legato, and really break it down into the smallest possible section that you can. Stop playing through it from beginning to end with all the same mistakes reinforced over and over. I know you've all had those discussions. So I put all of this down into Cadenza and I say, are you reading Cadenza? Oh, yeah. And then it became, no, I don't anymore. I'll remember. He doesn't. And he comes back time and time again with the same issues. So I still make those notes in Cadenza, and I make sure he has a pencil in his lesson. And I say, why don't you write above bar number 32 that you have to do this there? Or highlight that finger number because you're always getting it wrong, which leads to a break in the flow. And I have to get him to write it on the page. And so it's much harder work not to use Cadenza. Much harder work not to use Cadenza than it is to use Cadenza. In terms of the kids not using Cadenza, so I had a boy, he's about 10 years old, he's year 6, about 10 or 11. And he was working towards his exam, and I just a step 2, a pre-grade 1. And I was again doing the same thing over and over. And I said, I can see on Cadenza that you're not logging any practice. Oh, I am practicing, I'm going through all my, and he probably was playing through all his pieces and just reinforcing those same mistakes over and over and over, and never getting better at the things that needed to become better. And so he used to do it. I think that there was a lack of focus at home at that point. So I asked his dad to start making sure he had that iPad with him in the lesson. And I said, right, we're going to get you using Cadenza because you're not progressing. He really just was not progressing. We were not signing off old pieces and we weren't setting new pieces. And it was a huge difference versus how we used to use Cadenza, because he used to fly through his pieces. He used to fly through them. And by not following what I was telling him on Cadenza, he just stagnated for 2 or 3 months. Eventually, I said, right, I'm going to put a mystery word on Cadenza at some point this week. And you're going to find that mystery word. And when you found it, you're going to write it back to me, put it in the notes, write it back to me that you found it. And your reward will be to learn a piece of your choice. Because he wanted to learn, it was about one of his video game, he said it was called Among Us, and it was a little theme. So anyway, he decided against that in the end, and he wanted the Me Channel theme song. I said, right, you find me this word, I'll start teaching you the Me channel theme. So no matter what level, I'll do a lot of rote teaching, a lot of by ear, copy me, just, it doesn't have to read it because I knew it would be too complicated. So I waited, his lessons on a Tuesday, I waited till Sunday. So he had to keep checking back every day. To find that mystery word. And on the Sunday, I put the mystery word in. And because I know he's like, my boy is also into computer games. So I just chose one of these words that my little boy talks to me about from one of those games, Ultimate Tower Defense. Don't know what it is, but I figured this lad would know it. And it would be meaningful to him. It's a Roblox game. So I put that in and he sent it back to me. In the next lesson, we learnt the first 4 bars of the Me channel theme tune. And I haven't had to do it since, but I kept saying, keep going with Cadenza and I'll keep teaching you this. And we're signing off pieces. He sat his exam and he's going really well.
That's fantastic. Love it. That's a great story. I think we'll finish there, Joanna. That's a great way to finish. I love your ideas. And at the end, once we've listened to Chris's interview, we'll open it up for a question and answer. And I'm sure people will have questions for you. That's so great. Okay, so I will try not to fail at the screen share again. And here we go. Okay, so welcome, Chris. I'm really happy that we are finally able to do this interview and I can hear how you're using Cadenza in your studio. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I play assistant principal flute and piccolo in the VSO. I grew up in Toronto. I went through the whole Royal Conservatory system, and then after that I went to school in New York. And before I came here, I was in a Memphis Symphony for 5 years down in Tennessee. So I'm happy to be back in Canada, and I've now been here for about 4 years, and I'm starting to build up a little bit of a studio here in Vancouver.
That's great. And I'm sure you're enjoying the weather in Vancouver as well.
Yes.
That's great. So how long have you been using Cadenza in your studio?
About a year now.
Great. So where did you hear of it? How did you come across Cadenza?
Well, so I teach at the Vancouver Symphony School of Music, which is sort of a community school that we have attached to the symphony. And it's run by Angela Elster. She's our president and CEO of both institutions. And I think that you would know better than I would, but I think that she was involved early on in the development of the music tool suite when she was at the Conservatory in Toronto.
That's right. She's been involved from several different facets, actually. She's also involved through the Coalition for Music Education. Actually, she is one of the members of our steering committee who helps us make decisions and take Cadenza in a great direction to serve teachers and students.
Yeah, I remember her bringing it up at a department heads meeting. And the reason that I kind of jumped on it was that at the time I had a really, really keen student who I was really fond of, but she could only afford to take one lesson a month. And Cadenza sounded like a really interesting opportunity for me to give her more support without charging her for more lessons than she could afford.
Can you describe that a little, how you used Cadenza with that student?
Yeah, well, mostly it was just so that I could check in with her in writing. She would write little reflections on what was going on and how she had done with her scales and her studies that week, and then I would assign her a new one. So it was mostly just a way for me to keep updating her sort of lesson plans, her practice goals and things like that without actually having to see her. Later on, we got into when she was preparing for performances and things, we got into sending recordings and comments back and forth. But at the beginning, it was just sort of a running practice journal goal setting thing.
That's great. That's really great. And I'm sure that she was able to notice her own progress by using it that way as well.
Yeah, she was probably my most detailed note taker. It really varies. The level of engagement varies from student to student, but she really um, was quite analytical with her reports back to me about what went well and what didn't go well and what she was hoping to do tomorrow that was better. So that was always really encouraging.
That sounds great. Sounds like the student really took a hold of it and used it well. Um, so what age group in general do you use Cadenza with?
All my students have been in high school in Vancouver.
Okay. So they're roughly from ages 14 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
And did they find the tool intuitive? Did they find it difficult to use, or did they jump right in and just figured it out?
Well, I never heard any complaints, and they seem to have figured it out. We were using it, you know, uh, without too many hitches. There were a couple times that I had to describe where to find things. The media annotator is like a whole extra hidden thing where once you've found it, you've got all these great resources, but a couple of my students had to be directed there to find
Interesting.
it.
Did they upload the videos as attachments instead of the media annotator?
Yeah,
that what you
I've
were
had
finding?
people do both. Yeah.
We've found that as well. Yeah. So that's interesting to note. I'll take note of that. That we may be able to bring students there in a more intuitive way. Yeah, that's a great observation.
Yes.
And what feature of Cadenza do you find most useful with your students, and why?
Well, I mean, the great thing for me is that I don't have to, I can just take my notes during the lesson and then it's there. I don't have to take any extra time to, either. When I was a kid, we would write in a book and pass the book back and forth. Um, I guess paper is a little passe now, but at the start, um, it was just really nice not to have to, send an email or yeah, Google Doc or whatever. It was nice to be able to just put my notes up somewhere and then the kids could access it from the other side. But the other thing was just the ease with which you can upload video and both, look at it from both sides. That has been a lifesaver during the pandemic when I really haven't been able to I haven't been able to hear my students live to speak of. And especially at the beginning, sound quality over Zoom was pretty terrible. I had one student in particular who just sounded like, if you can imagine putting your head underwater and then someone runs a chainsaw nearby, that was what his flute playing sounded like. And so I remember the first couple Zoom lessons just sitting there and thinking, I mean, I can guess that you use more air. You can. I think you should probably play that again slower. Have you used a metronome? You're just sort of guessing using your they're educated guesses based on the person's past. But anyway, so ability to upload good quality video and have me be able to watch it either during the lesson or before the lesson was really a lifesaver because it was the only way to hear what they actually sounded like.
That's great, and I appreciate the humor. As far as the piano goes, when the students use the pedal in the Zoom quality with the addition of the pedal, basically you described it perfectly. A chainsaw underwater. Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure.
and then I mean, we all have the same issues of there will be a lag and there's a note that's 12 times too long and then they run up the scale. There was one student whose whose latency. Was so bad that she would finish the scale, like her flute was already down and it was still playing. Like there was no connection between the picture and the audio.
Yes. I'm sure so many teachers are going to relate to that when they listen to this, for sure. Yes, the uploading of the videos in the media annotator has been a lifesaver to the ears and to the
Yes.
feedback. Yes. Um, would you say that Cadenza has changed the way you teach in any way?
Yeah, well, I think the focus on recording and playback and excuse me, I mean, I always used to tell my students to, I always used to tell myself to record myself. And it just didn't really happen. You know, it's this really, really useful um, self-teaching technique and teaching technique that just didn't, you know, it's kind of unpleasant to listen to yourself, and it's an extra device to take out and you have to upload things. And I would always avoid it in myself, and my students for sure would always avoid it. And so now the fact that, first of all, it's quite easy and intuitive on Cadenza, but also that it's the only way, it's just the way that we're all operating now. Um, it's been kind of a blessing because, um, you know, for all the reasons that we told them to record themselves all along, they can hear the mistakes right away. They can fix them without my having to say anything. Um, it, I am sorry that it took a global pandemic for my students to start recording themselves, and for me to start recording. You know, there was the summer when we weren't doing any work um, at the symphony. I was recording an etude every day just on my phone and using it, and it's such a learning experience. Um, you know, and it just seems to be sort of the way of the world now. So
That's great.
that's been a big change.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear from the development side because that was one of the reasons that it was developed. So that's fabulous. Thank you. Have you noticed progress in your students in any way that you hadn't observed before? So maybe accelerated progress, or um, are your students progressing about the same? Is there any change that you would say overall in your students since they started using it?
Um, it's hard to say because my students are better now than they were a year ago. Thank goodness. But
Right.
some of that is just time. Um, I think that the analytical component, you know, being able to see your goals in paper, watch, track your progress. Um, Paper obviously here is a metaphor, but you know, having something written that you can compare week to week, and then also, like I say, the video component, being able to hear what you're doing. I think that that has really helped people develop their critical faculties, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so yes, I'm sure there has been an improvement that way.
Great. That's fabulous. Um, and finally, my final question is there anything that the Cadenza team could do to support you more as a teacher through our own efforts?
Mm. Um, no, I mean, no, I've found the Cadenza team extremely friendly and responsive. Um, we've talked a little bit before about email notifications. I know that um, if you have a huge studio, it sounds like a crazy prospect to have an email notification anytime something happens on Cadenza. I have quite a small studio because I'm full-time at the symphony, it's just sort of an extra thing for me. And I'm not on the Cadenza homepage or dashboard or whatever it is on a regular enough basis to just notice when things get uploaded. So there is an extra step of students emailing me to say, I uploaded something. And then, once I'm on the website, there are the notifications. But I don't know, it might be nice to be notified by email, although, of course, like I say, I understand the other side.
Right.
If I had 40 students, that would be very annoying.
I do have 40 students, and yes, it would be. Yeah. So that's well noted, though. We'll take note of it, and it would be maybe something that could be optional, so you could opt into email notifications or opt out. Yeah, we're always keeping a running list of suggestions that come in from teachers, and Cadenza is what it is today because of those notifications from teachers letting us know what they would like to see in there. So we're always looking to add features that help. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. This has been great. And I think it's wonderful to know that Cadenza can be used by several different age groups. It was originally designed for students between the ages of 8 and 14, and it's proven to be actually ageless. It works for everyone.
Yeah, well, and maybe I'll just add that particularly when my students get more advanced and they're starting to apply for, universities or high-level summer programs and they're working on orchestral excerpts, that has been a really great because they're so specific. These excerpts are so short, like often they're 20, 30, 45 seconds long. And every note has to be a certain way, and so that is the kind of thing where recording yourself becomes really kind of crucial. I mean, we used to do it without, and it was hard, and now it's a little bit easier because they're having to record themselves. So for sure, I think it's got huge application for the more advanced crowd.
That's great to hear. Yeah, that's super. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll end the recording there. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening, everyone. It's time for us to open a question and answer period. We're just going to take about...
everyone, and welcome.
Oh, sorry.
Thomas Hubel is a renowned teacher, author, and international facilitator who integrates...
I'm having major audio video issues today, of course, right in the middle of the webinar. Sorry about that. It just did an autoplay. We're going to open up a question and answer session for about 5 minutes. If you would like to raise your hand, then I can allow you to speak, and we'll get any questions answered. Claire, I noticed, put some great questions in the chat, or comments in the chat as well. Go ahead, Claire.
There is a question from Anna in the Q&A section saying, can we discuss the privacy of the application? And do you have access to enter teachers' profiles? I'm assuming she means, do we as administrators have access to enter teacher profiles? And where are the servers for the Cadenza application?
The servers right now are held with our development company, which is called Troon. It's a Canadian company, but the actual server currently is in New York. And as far as the privacy, we cannot, as administrators, cannot see into any teacher or student account unless there was a troubleshooting actual request from that teacher or student and they needed our help and specifically asked us. We would work out some way to briefly change the password with them and then have them change it back. But there's no access to looking inside.
Thank you.
I hope that helps answer your question, Anna.
I'm just going to type a response here so Anna has that on.
Sure. I really love all of the suggestions that have come up in the videos and with Joanne's sharing as well. Great. Thank you, Anna. And anytime, if you come across a question while you're trying to use Cadenza with your students or trying to get in yourself as a teacher, you can email info@cadenzapracticeapp.com, and we're pretty responsive to troubleshooting needs. So anytime you need help. Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have a lot of other questions. Claire, did you have anything to add?
No, I think there was so many amazing different viewpoints and different settings that everybody is using the app in, and it's so refreshing to hear about everybody's positive experiences and also learn from the ways that they have troubleshot other experiences. And yeah, it's pretty thrilling. I did make a couple of comments about with regard to post-secondary use in particular. Thank you, Chris, so much for the note about orchestral excerpts. You know, most of our users are piano teachers, so it's actually really refreshing to hear from a clarinetist and a flutist, and how, you know, the different demands of that kind of music studio, and that's really applicable to, you know, applying that to a music school that has a diverse instrument base, not just piano. Also, you know, the concept of using the ear training and sight reading facility in a group setting was really something that I hadn't considered, and that opens up a whole world of group teaching possibilities. You know, I'm actually hoping to teach a piano techniques group course in the fall, and I can already think of many ways that would be super useful for that setting. So I'm thrilled to hear about that personally.
Great. And Joanne, did you have anything that you would like to add? And then I'll get to Anton's question.
I don't think so. No, like Claire says, it's great to hear other people using it, especially in the older kind of secondary age group, because a lot of mine are younger. But yeah, you know, it's such a great resource to use for all ages. You know, I have about eight to nine adults all using it actively, as well as, you know, 20 odd kids. So you know, the thing is, it's so user friendly. So one of the things I do, if someone isn't using it, if someone isn't engaging with it, and I talk to the parent and the child together, and I say, look, there has to be an online method for us to share notes. I can't be scribbling them out, taking a photo of them. I can't have you scribbling them out, taking a photo of them. There has to be an electronic means to share notes. And I say, whatever you're comfortable working with, I'll work with you on that. Whether they want a Google Drive shared file, we can work on that. I'll do a OneDrive shared file, we'll work on that. We'll do Google Teams or whatever they want to do, Google Classroom, sorry, whatever they'll do, I'll learn about it and we'll sort something out on that. If there's something they're comfortable with, I'll do it. Not a single one has ever taken me up on that offer, because Cadenza, it's all in one place. It's all there. You can upload files, you can upload audio files, you can upload backing tracks, you can upload videos, you can put video links on, and it's in one place. It's not multiple files shared under week 1, week 2, week 3. It is all there, it's all dated. No one has ever suggested anything better to me that they would rather use.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get Anton. Anton, I've turned you on, so if you would like to unmute, go ahead. I can't currently hear Anton. Are you there, Anton? There we go.
All right, there. Okay. Thank you. Hello, Jody, John, Claire, and everyone around. It's nice to be here. I am planning to sign up for Cadenza today, because it's the first of the month, and I would like everything starting on the first of the month. And I was just wondering, I haven't used it this way before, but I love to put tabs on my Chrome browser. Yeah, sometimes there are even more than 20 tabs there, you know. And I noticed Facebook, you don't even have to refresh your page in order for new things to come up. I wonder if Cadenza works the same way, or you still have to refresh it in order for new things to come up. I would even maybe suggest that if the Cadenza team could set it up like Facebook, so that you don't have to manually refresh the page to see that, oh, your student is doing something today. It might be a little bit more engaging for the teacher as well. Just a suggestion.
Sure. Yes, we take down all suggestions, Anton. It does currently need to be refreshed for you to see something. I will mention that to the development team. Often I'm very unsure how much a certain feature will cost developmentally.
Oh.
And it can be so surprising. Something that we perceive as a really simple tweak is, tens of thousands of dollars to develop. So that's something that I'll mention to them. And I guess if we ever get to a place that we're successful like Facebook, we can add lots of Facebook-like features. So yes, it always comes down to cost. So that is something I will mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. And I hope to see you in a few after the pandemic is over, in person.
Yes, in person with so many people would be great.
I'm in Toronto. Where are you right now?
Oh, great. I'm in Kingston.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes.
Quite a
nice
distance.
And close, but we're not allowed to visit.
Yeah, it's walking distance from my place, like a month walk.
Yes, a month. Yeah. Well, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jody.
Okay, I did see Veronica's hand up, but I'm not sure if she still wanted to mention something. Okay, I think that's great. I'm going to stop the recording there and just say thank you for coming, everyone. Oh, sorry, she has it in the
Q&A. Okay.
Sure. I see it.
I'll just speak to that. Is there a way of hyperlinking YouTube links, as an example, please? My students find it challenging having to copy and paste links.
Oh, yes, there is. I get asked this every now and again. Right within the description window, there is a link icon up where you find the bold, italics, bullet points. There's a link icon, and you click on the link icon, put the URL in there, and then also choose target and choose new pop-up window.
Jody, would you like me just to give that, just to show that?
Sure.
I can do it really quickly. So
yeah, that would be great.
First off, I'm just going to grab, I don't know, a YouTube video link. So just bear with me, and I'll just, here we go. Let's open up YouTube, youtube.com. Here we go. Here's a link. Won't play it. Right, so I'm going to copy. I'm just going into my, I've just got a link copied to paste. So if I then want to...
Can you share your screen, Joanne?
Yeah, just doing that.
Okay,
yeah, there we go.
Just coming up.
So if I just increase the size of that. So I've just got my... There we go. So if I go back to Cadenza there, I'll go into my list of students, and I'm going to put it in my own one again. So here's me. I'll go into here. I want to copy and paste a link. So I'm going to go into this task now. Right. So what I do, take out my blurb. Here's the hyperlink. I don't know if you can see that. Is it big enough? This is the hyperlink symbol here. I'll just put a nice big circle around there for you. There you go. Right. So what I do is I click on that button. Just get rid of that circle. Click on that button. And I go into here. I click on URL. Control V to paste, or you can, when you right click, you get the option to paste as well. I use Control V. I don't worry about display text, don't worry about anything else there. I just paste into that URL. Then I go to target. Sorry, let me just clear all of that. Take that circle off. Right. I go into target, and then I always do new window. If you don't click new window, it opens up instead of Cadenza. So then whoever's clicking it has to come back to Cadenza. Whereas if you open it up in a new window, done. And then if I save that there, I should, yeah, if I click that there now, it opens up in a new window, but Cadenza is still there behind it. It doesn't shut down the Cadenza tab and open it in the Cadenza tab. And that I find is the key thing. So 1, you have to click the hyperlink, and 2, you have to put it in a new window. Does that help?
Exactly. Great. Thank you for having that right there ready to go, Joanne. Okay, I'm going to end our recording. And I'm so happy to have everyone. Once again, I guess I didn't introduce myself in the beginning. I'm Jody Campo, and I'm a private piano teacher, and I'm the project manager for the Cadenza Community Project. Thank you, everyone.